And I believe that any youth, when they could see the value within themselves, nobody could come up against that.
On the beat, on the beat.
Hello everyone, welcome to On the Beat podcast. I have a special guest here. Boom, 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 boom. Right? Her name is Leanne Alcock, but I call her Lee for short, right? I could call her L?
Yeah, I
L. So, how are you going?
I'm good. How are you?
Are you excited for this podcast?
It's a little bit intimidating, but I think we'll get through it.
All right, we'll get through it because it's a hard topic, no, Lee?
It's a broad topic. It's a big topic.
Oh, I'm sweating, Lee. Oh gosh. You're not to get on so. But anyway, today we will be talking about student today, parent tomorrow. This is a very broad topic according to Lee, and we just looking at we just want to focus at the causes of why would a student or how would a student end up in such position where they don't even have the so-called typical dream where you leave secondary school, you maybe apply for tertiary education, you pass that, career, have a house and land, then you married, then you have a child. But child usually would be the last thing on the list.
Right.
Instead, it's the first thing on the list. Could you have seen yourself in that category where a child is the first thing on your list, Lee?
No. Partly because, my mother would have killed me. My mother is old school. She would have killed me. That was it. You would have found my body at the side of the road.
Yeah.
But then that was my mother, right? In terms of why we see a lot of young parents today.
Yeah.
When I say a big topic, it's so many different reasons. Children go through trauma. Children are products of their environment, circumstances. There's so many different things that could, result.
So let me look at some examples, right? So one of the examples, it could be that I realize in today's society, in some cases, the parents doesn't have eager interest in their children. So therefore their children end up having to kind of mind themselves and push themselves through school, but they are not feeling loved by their parents, but they are feeling loved by their peers and those who are around them.
Right.
You understand? In that kind of scenario, can you see, or can you understand why a child might end up being a parent as soon as they leave school?
Definitely, but I want to point out something to you, right?
Yeah.
When you do check it out and you check out the ages of some of these parents, they were children themselves.
Oh, it's like a ripple effect then.
Yes, that cycle, that generational thing, that domino effect, we see it today in society. So for example, if it is, let's just say, and I've had the experience of young mothers having children, having to drop out of school. Sometimes even the males, they might go through school, they might not be performing well, they might not be focused or motivated, and they drop out of school.
Yeah.
But guess what? When you look at the history and you look at our youth today, it is because their parents were youths yesterday. So you tend to see now that, not putting anything on children, but you tend to realize that somewhere down the line, some of our youths today are going to be early parents tomorrow.
So you're trying to say that the examples that are put forward to them may not be good examples of how to live life in today's society.
Yes, but I don't want to bash parents out there.
Right.
Even that parents are listening to your podcast. We don't want to bash parents.
We don't want to bash parents.
We don't want to bash them because they are products of their circumstances as well, right?
Yeah.
And the thing, what they didn't have long time would have been technology and social media and all these extra distractions and all this new bright and colorful modern world that Gen Z, as they call it, have to be growing up in, right? But at the same time, I cannot teach you what I don't know. So parents today cannot give to their children what they don't know, what they did not receive. So if they tell themselves at that young age that they didn't have the love, they didn't have the attention, their circumstances were ridiculous, they were living in poverty, they were living a life, the parents were living a life of crime, they had no choice. Did what they had to do, they had to either work and neglect their child, or give the child attention and be, you know, subjected to poverty and stuff like that. And if I have parents that I could not, or they, I should say, could not relate to, didn't have a relationship with my parents, then how could I have a relationship with my child? I can't give love if I don't know what love is, if I've never received that love. So therefore, we're just basically producing a bitter society.
So let me ask you this question. Now, it has some young people who they are trying their best to get a good life, to get a good education. And somehow along the line, even they might have even good parenting as well. But somewhere along the line, they end up messing up. They end up with a mistake. You understand? How can they actually avoid such thing as a student?
Right. So now we live in a society sometimes that you're doing good, people will be like, oh, okay, cool, no problem.
So they come like they kind of relax on the situation because this child is doing good, this child know they have their head on and them kind of stuff. But they didn't know that this unexpected version of them is actually about to happen.
All right, so sometimes, and it's going to sound a little bit crazy, but sometimes we have children that, you know, come from perfectly seemingly normal homes, and then, okay, so they make this one mistake, right? Because to them, some element of what they thought I was missing, they went looking for it. Because that's the reality of how we end up with young parents. We just all, and that's the baseline, we're just all looking for love, we're all looking for acceptance, we're all looking for comfort. Now, we don't know, and again, nature versus nurture, we don't know how they were nurtured, right? Because from me looking on the outside, you could come from a seemingly really normal background, but then the pressure might be different to you who is on the inside. So I might be like, oh, they're just parents, just really in charge of their child, really taking a firm interest in what goes on with their child. But the child now, depending on how much pressure you put on that child is going to feel
under
that
stress,
pressure. And they're going to assume that you only want me because I am good at this. So from a young age, you kind of have to decide as a parent, how do you react when your child makes a mistake, even in a test? Right? How do you react to that? Do you make them feel like they're not wanted, they're not accepted? Do you make them feel like they completely failed and that was just this one mistake? Or do you make them feel like, hey, next time you could try again. This is where you made the mistake. Let's move forward. This is where you could try again.
Because the interaction a parent will have with a child or a youth, you understand, can actually push them overboard or could keep them in that zone. But by a parent either being too strict or being too naive of the situation or lenient, you understand, that could end up having this child that's wandering away into a dangerous minefield.
And so, from your question earlier on, if a child happens to make that mistake because they're searching for something, I mean, you remember your teenage years. At some point as a teen, regardless of how normal your home was, you're still searching for something. You're searching for that validation that, let me be real, your parents can't give you. I mean, real honest. Your parents can't give you, because even the child who has the most loving parents still want friends. Still want to be accepted by peers.
Exactly.
Right? And there are many studies on it. Psychologists believe at that point in the teenage years, You break away from wanting your parents' acceptance to wanting the acceptance of your peers. And then adding social media and society norms today, that is the thing. You want to be accepted by others who are not required or obligated to accept it. Your parents are required.
And then in that same mode, you tend to hear situations where a student run away.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Or they gone somewhere and parents having to make a report and those sort of stuff.
Right.
Somehow in the young person mind, they think that their best option is to go and live with someone else or to go and be with someone else instead of being the safe space of their home. Mm-hmm. You understand? And I think you slightly touched on it, but I think I went through it as well, where I remember running away a couple of times because actually I wanted to be with my mom. You understand? That is a different way.
Yeah.
I wanted to be with my mom instead of with my dad. Mm-hmm. And because situation, whatever happening at home, you just don't want to be part of it, or you just think your parent is not understanding you. You just want to get out.
Right.
And I think a lot of young people in today's, well, not a lot, but those who are going through similar situations where they just want out.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they end up grabbing hold on someone who might end up getting them pregnant, or someone who would encourage them to just corrupt their mind, and they end up in the wrong zone.
Yeah.
So what would you say to a youth who is listening to this?
Right.
To actually stay the course and don't run away.
Okay. What I would say to a youth is that your life has value. You are worth it. You are awesome. You are excellent. Regardless of what people might think your faults are, there is value. And I believe that any youth, when they could see the value within themselves, nobody could come up against that. Nobody could tell them differently because they value themselves. So what I would tell them is that nobody could love you better than you love yourself. We all know that God loves you, regardless. So when you can realize your self-worth, your self-value, you can realize how much you are purposed in this life, then nobody can tell you differently. You cannot be easily influenced or easily pushed or even corrupted. Even if you're slightly corrupted, it's easy to come back from that. I mean, the Bible says, train a child
as how they should
go, so that when they get older, they would not depart.
Yeah.
So if your child was never been trained to have manners, something so simple as manners, can't expect them to have manners as an adult.
And one more thing before we wrap up. What would you tell a student or a young person who have big dreams? And I've come across a lot of young people who have big dreams. And yet it's being crushed because either they got pregnant, or they got a girl pregnant. You understand? What would you tell those young people who now, they either still in school or they now finish school?
Right.
How would you tell them to move forward from there?
Okay, so understand that your mistake does not define you. Your mistake is not something that you can't be labeled for or accept a label. You are going to be called many things, but just watch what you answer to. Right? And in a case like that, you've made a mistake. Accept that you've made a mistake. The easiest way to make your wrongs right is to continue to push forward. Okay, so you got pregnant or you've had a child at a very young age. There are many instances where persons would have gone on to be extremely successful.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, you have big dreams, but having a kid at a particularly young age does not mean that your dreams
are shattered.
It means there might be a delay in your dreams, but it does not mean that your dreams are shattered. And it is really all up to you and how motivated and determined you are that despite this mistake that you would have made, understand that yes, a child is not a mistake, it's a beautiful thing. It's just the act in which would be considered the mistake. But I will leave you with this. If you have big dreams, all you have to do is be realistic about it and go for it. Regardless of what mistakes you would have been made, it does not shatter your dream.
And
continue to push.
Piggyback on what Leanne just said, a person might be thinking about abortion as well. And you might be thinking about saving your own future. So best I abort this child to save my own future, to save my dreams. And I want to urge you to, I mean, there are consequences in life and we all have to face it depending on the decision we make. And face the consequence, because as Leanne just said, a child is a beautiful thing, even though it came through unplanned, right?
Yeah.
And don't give up on your dreams because this is happening. And don't give up on a child because this circumstance has happened and everything could just blow up, you know? So with this, I want to thank Lee for stopping by, Miss Educator, good, all right? And see you all next week, see you all soon, and make sure subscribe and share. Later.
Bye everyone.
Thank you for listening to On The Beat Podcast. Feel free to share, follow, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, and Instagram. Stay blessed, everyone.